I think a lot of people think of an album, particularly when it's their first one, think of an album as being some kind of magnum opus, this fixed thing that they will be judged and judged themselves on for the rest of eternity. And I'm not sure that is necessarily the most healthy way of thinking about what we're doing when we're finishing an album. When I was finishing in fact, before I finished this recent album, I had an idea of the kind of artist I wanted to be. But from finishing it, that has changed massively. I thought that I wanted my singing to be a kind of additional thing to my music. It was just like an extra thing on top of the music I was making. But through the making of this album, possibly because I've realized that I can, not that I am now, but that I could become a great singer, not just a good singer, but a great singer. Believe me, I am not there yet. So I would say I'm still pretty terrible, right? But I've realized that I could become a great singer. And that is the most exciting thing to me I could think of. I could become a very good songwriter and a great singer. So one of the things that I've learned through finishing this album isn't about actually the quality of the singing on this album. It's like this album isn't me being a great singer. This album is proof that I could be. I'm like, wow, well, if I'm able to do this in this amount of time, then what could I do in the next album or the next album? I'm viewing this album as a step, as a milestone on the way, right? And obviously, the artist that I want to become has to be based upon the artist I am now. All change requires honesty, requires transparency, requires acceptance of who you are now, what you're able to do now, what your skill level is now, what your abilities are now. So much of the music that I've made in my past, I now realize, has been about me avoiding who I am now, pretending to be something that I'm not. And in this album, what I decided to do in that final week was not tune my vocals and only do 2 takes of each vocal, because that was the only way I was actually going to be able to finish it. But by doing that and listening back after I had about a week off, not listening at all, and I listened back to it, it's now very clear to me the artist that I am now. So in making it, I have been shown where I need to improve. I'm being honest with myself about where I am now. Now, of course, I could choose to improve the vocals, and I could choose to do multiple takes. I could choose to melodyne them a bit or auto-tune them a bit. And I mean, that's not the only thing that is a problem, is the tuning. There are other things too. But I'm choosing not to do that because I think partly what I'm doing with this album is it's almost like a demonstration of the approach that I suggest that people take, which is that they think of their music as being in service of their growth, rather than their growth being in service of any given result, right? So in other words, I view finishing an album as being one of the ways, finishing and releasing an album, because I'm going to release it on Bandcamp. So I view releasing and finishing an album as being something which actually helps me grow as a musician, as an artist. Okay, but that requires that I am honest about where I am. So this album is a very transparent demonstration of where I am as a singer and a songwriter. I mean, in terms of songwriting, one of the things I've realized is that some of the songs on there sound a little bit like they're in a musical. I don't want to sound like I'm in a musical. Right. And I now know why that is, but I'm going to still keep them on there because it's where I am now. It's a snapshot of where I am now. Yeah, and they kind of work together. And some of them don't sound like I'm in a musical and some of them do. It's fine. But it does make me slightly go like that. And that's good. Again, this is creating a gap that I'm now motivated to fill. And in making this album, in finishing this album, in being honest about where I am now, it's allowed me to realize what I could do next. So now I'm sure I want to attempt to become a great singer, because I think I have it in me to be able to sing in a way that just hits you. Guarantee you I'm not there now. I could do that. And that is the biggest win I could imagine. Actually being able to do that would be like a lifetime goal. The system of creating this album, upgrading who I want to become, realizing who I am now, has allowed me to think, all right, so what is the next step? From the start of this year, what I am deciding to do now has fundamentally changed. So now I want to become a great singer. Right? That's not what I wanted to do at the start of this year. Right? I now want to become a great singer. How do I narrow my focus so it's just that? That is what I'm focused on. So what I'm going to do for the rest of this year is I'm going to learn some songs. I'm going to learn other people's songs. So I've got a list of songs I'm going to learn. And I'm going to make versions of them. Now, I won't be able to release them on Bandcamp because they're cover versions, but I'll find a way of putting them somewhere so that you can hear them if you want. I mean, they'll probably be in my music machine. But essentially, what that does is it removes the songwriting, because I can always catch up with my 1,000 songs project next year, even though I'm going to be hundreds behind. That's fine. I can sort that out, right? Because I was doing 1,000 songs in 1,000 days, and I've got, I don't know, like 600 days left. So I'm going to put that aside for now. I'm going to put aside actually making an album of my own music, and I'm simply going to learn some of my favorite songs, the ones that I can, anyway, the ones that I can sing. Because for one thing, in learning it, I'm going to be listening to how my favorite singers sing. I'm also not going to be focused on writing songs. I'm not going to be focused on producing music. I'm just going to do versions with just piano and voice, because that is narrowing the focus to where I want to grow the most. And without this album, without the gaps that is created, without being honest about where I'm at and who I could become, there's no way that I could have made this decision. It would have felt like a cop-out or something, but it's actually the opposite. This feels like really going for it by narrowing the focus, by lowering the bar, and just by focusing on the area of biggest growth for me. And this is the power of making any given release not the fixed point that you put on a pedestal and think you'll have to carry it around for the rest of your life. Instead, thinking it as being more fuel for your fire to grow as an artist.